Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the Missoula City Council meeting of October 26th, 2020 to order. I will note that all council members are present in this virtual meeting, except for Mr. Von Losberg. For those of you attending, thank you for joining our meeting being held via Zoom webinar. When I call for public comment, please use the raise or lower hand feature to let me know you wish to be recognized. At that point, I'll allow you to talk and you'll need to unmute your microphone. If you've joined us by phone today, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9 and mute, and by pressing *9 and mute and unmute, using *6. If you're participating by phone, I will call on you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we have no minutes to approve this week, but we do have a committee schedule. Ms. Rabine.
Thanks, Mayor Engen. We do have a short committee schedule this week. We're going to have 3 meetings. Those meetings are all being held via Zoom webinar, just like this one is. You can find all of our meetings at the city by going to the City of Missoula's website. Hey, Google's your friend there. Just Google City of Missoula. You'll be on our webpage. There's a button in the middle of the page called Meetings, and if you click that, you'll be directed to our agenda portal, and you'll find agendas for all these meetings and the information about how to join our Zoom webinar at the top of each one. Public Safety and Health Committee will meet this week at 10:45 in the morning until 11 a.m., short 15-minute meeting. Parks and Conservation Committee will meet from 11:15 until noon, and Administration and Finance Committee will round out the day from 12:15 to 12:30. Like I said, all those meetings are being held via Zoom webinar and in virtual environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Any changes to the committee schedule this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the public comment portion of our agenda. This is your opportunity to comment on items not elsewhere on the agenda this evening. So this, for example, is not the time to talk about tobacco or trapping on parklands, but you can certainly talk about anything else. Any general public comment this evening? I don't see a single hand up in the attendees box. So we will move on, ladies and gentlemen, to our consent agenda. Items here were approved generally unanimously in council committees to be placed on this agenda. We save a little time on Monday evenings by voting on these items as a package. Ms. Rabine will read the list of consent agenda items aloud so council can be reminded and folks in the audience can hear what we're considering, and we'll take comment on these items before we vote as well. Ms. Rabine.
Thanks. Mayor Engen, we have, and council members, we have 10 items on tonight's consent agenda. The first is to approve claims, which are the city's accounts payable. And this week, the bills total $923,611.75 for checks that are dated tomorrow, October 27th, 2020. Number 2 is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a professional services agreement, amendment number 4, with Anderson Montgomery Consulting Engineers Incorporated for the biosolids and green waste composting project at a cost not to exceed $34,752. Number 3 is to approve and authorize the mayor to execute a grant deed of conveyance accepting the transfer of the Knife River Ponds open space property from JTL Group Knife River as agreed upon in the Fort Missoula Regional Park Partnership Agreement that dates back to November 29th, 2002. Number 4 is to set a public hearing on November 9th, 2020 on a resolution to expend up to $25,000 of the city's portion of the 2006 open space bond funds to purchase perpetual public trail easement that will provide a critical connection between the Milwaukee Trail corridor and Mullen Road and Mullen Trail. Number 5 is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a construction agreement with Grant Creek Excavating for the 2020 through 2021 stormwater repair and maintenance projects at a cost not to exceed $54,357. Number 6 is to set a public hearing on November 23rd of 2020 on a resolution relating to a project on behalf of Blue Line Development and the issuance of revenue bonds or notes to finance all or a portion of the costs of construction of a multifamily rental housing project commonly known as Trinity Apartments and associated costs under Montana Code Annotated Title 90, Chapter 5, Part 1, as amended, granting preliminary approval thereto. Number 7 is to adopt a resolution of the Missoula City Council to authorize the lease of the real property located in the city of Missoula at 301 East Main Street. That's the old library. I'll note for the record that adoption of that lease requires a 2/3 vote of all council members. The second part of this is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a commercial lease agreement with Sovereign Hope Church for a city property located at 301 East Main Street, Missoula, Montana, in the amount of $4,500 per month with first and last month's rent and a deposit in the amount of $4,500 due at occupancy. Likewise, a supermajority vote required there. Number 8 is to adopt a resolution of the Missoula City Council to authorize lease of property located at the city of Missoula, in the city of Missoula at 1835 North Avenue. And the second part of that is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a commercial lease agreement with Hope Rescue Mission for city property located at 1835 North Avenue in the amount of $2,000 per month with first and last month rent and a deposit in the amount of $2,000 that's due at occupancy. Number 9 is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Relationship Violence Services in the amount of $176,013. And finally, number 10 is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign a contract for services with the Poverello Center for $100,000 for the provision of emergency winter shelter services.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. I have Mr. Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you please divide the question so we can vote on item 5.1 separately due to the 2,500 going to Boone?
Sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones.
Yes, I would like to propose that we take the Scheck lease and put that on committee reports. I had an email from Dale that we actually needed to modify that. There was some communications that had happened, so I'm sorry I don't have the number of what number it is on the consent agenda because I've got a different screen up. But
That's all right. So without objection, we can just have Mr. Bickle clarify now and consider it all as part of the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. Dale Bickle, Chief Administrative Officer. In our working with Scheck for the lease of the property at the former library site, we didn't close a communication loop properly. They were hoping for a slightly lower rental rate. We worked with our property manager to come up with a rate of $3,000 per month. It still meets a fair market value for the property that they are leasing, which is which we've calculated at $16 a square foot for the office space and $8 a square foot for storage and the larger open space areas, and it's only that use in that area on Sundays. So requestfully propose that lease amount, that rate be changed to $3,000 per month.
Thank you, Mr. Bickle. So that's item 5.7 would change the monthly lease rate from $4,500 per month to $3,000, and without objection, that can be amended. Right. Seeing none, Ms. Jones?
I just wanted to thank Dale for bringing this to our attention and say that I'm in support of it. The Sheck lease it's a nonprofit. I don't think, I think it's totally reasonable to have a lower amount. And knowing the history of where they previously had their church services, and that now is a property that the city owns and is using for other purposes, I think they've worked with us, and it's incumbent on us to work with them. So I think this is fine to make it work for everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Any further questions or comments from council members? I see no hands up in the attendees window. So we'll have a roll call vote on item 5.1.
All right, that's a vote on the claims, and we'll start roll with Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
No.
Hart,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
No.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
No.
West.
Yes.
And would any of you like to change your vote? That final tally is 8 yeses, 3 nos, and 1 absent.
And the motion's approved. And now items 5.2 through 5.10, please.
Alrighty, on the balance of the consent agenda, noting the amendment to 5.7, Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
And would any of you like to change that vote? All right, that's 11 ayes and 1 absent.
And the consent agenda is approved. We have no comments from city staff, agencies, boards, commissions, authorities, or the community forum this evening, nor do we have any special presentations. We have one public hearing. The state law and our own council rules set guidelines for inviting comment in a formal way on a variety of issues. And following a staff report on each of these, council and I will invite community comment. During COVID-19, we are holding these public hearings open for a week and then voting the following week unless there's a requirement for final action on the night of the public hearing. This evening, that is not the case. So this evening's public hearing will remain open, and council will consider this most likely at its next meeting to take final action. With that, our staff report on an ordinance prohibiting trapping on city parks, trails, and conservation lands comes from Ms. Auberg this evening.
Hello, good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Yes, this is an ordinance proposed to amend Title 12 of the Missoula Municipal Code. It will create a new section, subsection 12.40.035E, titled Trapping on City Parks, Trails, Conservation Lands, and amending section 12.40.080 to allow for restitution for injury or death of a pet, and authorizing Missoula Parks and Recreation Department to spring, release, or confiscate animal traps or snares found within city parks, trails, or conservation lands. There were 3 specific areas we looked at changing or amending in this ordinance. First, we thought it was appropriate to separate trapping from the hunting provision, just so that it was more clear that trapping is prohibited. We also included the body gripping traps and snares in what is prohibited. And we also gave the judge or court more discretion in what somebody could be sentenced to at the end, including restitution if they injured or killed a pet with an illegally placed trap. And then authorizing the Missoula Parks and Recreation Department to spring release or take traps that are found illegally within city parks, trails, or conservation lands.
Thank you, Ms. Auberg. So some slight modifications to existing ordinance, and I will open the public hearing. If you'd like to comment, please raise your hand using those 2 methods. And if you would also please be mindful to try to keep your comments around 3 minutes. And Steph 000.
Good evening. Can you hear me, council members?
We can.
This is Stephen Capro with Footloose, Montana. And I just want to thank you for the thoughtful deliberation you've had on this issue. I think all of you have looked at this and realize this is a serious safety threat for the community. I especially want to thank Julie Merritt for her efforts on this. And I think all of us understand that we need to keep our community safe, and we're a community of recreation, and people like to get outdoors. And what we have to do is ensure public safety. And so I just want to say thank you. All of you have looked at this issue. You've voted on it a few times, and I think everybody understands this pretty clearly. And on behalf of the 187,000 people that voted to end traffic,
Sorry, sir, we lost you. Stephen, I'm sorry we lost you, but the public hearing will remain open. Let's try again here. Stephen, do we have you now? Nope. All right. Well, seeing no additional public comment, this hearing will remain open until council takes final action. Any questions or comments from council members? All right. Seeing none, we have no additional public hearings. We do have 1 item for final consideration. These are items that have had public hearings, and that hearing has been held open until this evening. I will now close the public hearing on the proposal to regulate tobacco sales and prohibit the sale of flavored tobacco. For folks in attendance this evening, I've had a number of conversations with council members, and my understanding is that council is considering much amended language, and that language is in draft right now. So the intention is to return this item to committee, where it will be on Wednesday. Committee and public can learn more about these amendments and do some discussion around those. I would suggest that the only item for public comment this evening is whether to return the item to committee. So if you're an attendee and you're interested in commenting on the merits of the proposed ordinance, we won't be doing that tonight. You'll have that opportunity on Wednesday, and then again at final consideration, most likely next week. With that, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I want to make a couple corrections. So we are sending this back to committee, and we'll be hearing it on Wednesday, November 4th in the afternoon. Time on that to be determined. So, but that is our intention, to give the sponsors a little bit more time for draft language, and then with final consideration on Monday, November 9th.
Thank you. Clarification.
Thank you.
All right, so this item has been returned to committee. And again, will be heard in that committee in early November, with final action to take place the following week. Anyone care to comment on the return to committee, even though there's no vote? Mr. Allen. Earl, you're muted if you're talking.
There we go. How's that?
That's much better.
Thank you. I just wanted to express my thanks to the council for sending this back to committee. I think that's a helpful move to several of us who think there were some misconceptions out there. And I appreciate the fact that the Public Health and Safety Committee took a little time, and will continue to take a little more time going forward to discuss these things. Hopefully I can make sure I'm part of that conversation going forward. I also wanted to happily announce that 2 more of my Noons crew members passed compliance checks over this last weekend, another new employee and another long-term employee. So I just want to reiterate that we do take this all very seriously. We are on the front lines, and those of us in the retail community sure will want to make sure that we're part of that conversation going forward. And I also want to express appreciation to counselors who took the time to come and visit our stores. I know Counselor Harp came to visit one of our stores, and I had a very good conversation with her. And I think that in the meantime, between now and the 4th, I'd love to see counselors come and visit us and see what we've got going on. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. And that was our only final consideration item this evening. I see no additional. Oh, I see one more hand up. Caller 4665.
Yes, Mayor and City Council members, this is Tom Bryant. Are you able to hear me?
We are.
If you recall, I am the Executive Director and Legal Counsel for the National Association of Tobacco Outlets, and we have member stores in Missoula. It's my understanding now you're going to send this back to committee. I just want to reiterate that the Montana legislature, when it passed the Montana Youth Access to Tobacco Control Act, was very clear in preempting any more restrictive ordinance. So if the new language that's being drafted would consider any kind of ban on any kind of flavored tobacco product, flavored alternative nicotine product, or flavored electronic smoking product, then that ban would be preempted and would not be appropriate for the City Council to consider. So I just want to reiterate that concern that we have, because that advice does follow the City Attorney's legal memorandum that he issued to the City Council in February of this year. And that would be the totality of my comments for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no more hands up, we will move on, folks, to communications from the mayor. I will pass this evening general comments from council members. I'll begin with Ms. West. Ms. Merritt.
If you haven't turned your ballot in, please do so. We need to get everybody to vote. Thanks.
Ms. Becerra.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring attention tonight to my home country of Chile. The country voted yesterday to rewrite its constitution to no longer live under a constitution that was created during a brutal dictatorship. And so this little skinny country of mine that sits at the edge of the world made history by holding tight to values of equality and democracy. So change is coming, and I guess that's a message to everyone that voting is important. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Becerra. Mr. Hess.
Pass, thanks.
Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity to make a plea to Missoulians and folks in the surrounding counties that we really need to be doing better on our COVID measures. We have had 62 deaths in the state of Montana in the last 72 days. That means that there are 62 additional families who are going to be missing a loved one as we go into this holiday season. We have had, and here in Missoula, we've had 153 new COVID cases since Friday. So what we're doing as a community is not currently working. We need to do more. Stay home if you can. If you must go out, stay socially distanced, wear your mask. That means over your nose, and take all the precautions. They work, but what we're doing, we need to be doing more. It's cold. We're starting to spend more time indoors. Cases are going to be on the rise. And I know we are all sick and tired of this, but it does mean the difference between life or death for those people in our community. And too many people have suffered. Too many families have lost loved ones. And please just continue to be vigilant so that no more families have to have the heartbreak of missing somebody this holiday season. That is my plea to you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ramos.
Pass. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Jones.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to take a couple of minutes. Someone who was very important in this community passed away this weekend. Larry Riley passed on Saturday, and I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about him. I have known Larry since I was a little girl. And so he was just a huge impact on this community. Larry Riley grew up in Roundup, Montana. He played basketball for the Grizz, and he went to law school after college. He practiced law for quite a few decades at Garlington Law and Robinson, and my father and he were both in practice there as partners, so that's how I got to know him. And Larry was always a bit of a rebel. It was a pretty conservative law firm, but I will always remember the portraits. They had professional photos taken of all of the attorneys. So there's 30 pictures of attorneys up on the wall, and they all had their gray suits and their navy blue suits. And Larry had a bright red blazer. And that kind of sums up Larry Riley. He had a great sense of humor. He was a wonderful trial attorney because he was a wonderful storyteller. And I think the most eloquent, heartfelt eulogy I have ever heard is when Larry Riley spoke at his wife's, Diana's, funeral about 4 years ago. And it was, the entire UC ballroom was in tears because it was so heartfelt. For the last 4 years, Larry was on the board of Missoula Aging Services after he retired from his law practice. He gave a huge amount of time to Missoula Aging Services in terms of free legal advice for elder law and helped many people there. And this last year, he was the chair of the board. So Missoula lost a huge person who gave so much to this community. There will not be a funeral because we're in the middle of a pandemic, but I wanted to use my council comments time to give a shout out to Larry Riley. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And here, I didn't know that Larry had passed. Yeah, wonderful man. Ms. Hart.
Thanks. This morning I had a Zoom coffee, if you will, with Maynann Ellingson. And years ago, she served as our city attorney, and then she went into private practice and did a lot of good work there. But I think we all remember her very pivotal role as being the youngest woman in 1972, being part of our Montana Constitution. We had a coffee because she was concerned about the vote that I had made and some of my comments regarding the Expo Parkway project. And I think we never really, as counselors, really get to get to tell a little bit more about why we come to the decisions that we do when it comes down to land use matters. And she was worried that I had disregarded the Grant Creek neighborhood. And I was worried, well, sorry, I think she was worried that I had overstepped or had said something wrong. And ultimately, these are hard decisions that we make. And I try and look at the decisions that the way I end up deciding based upon a lot of the facts that are presented to us in council. We will never, ever see eye to eye. I mean, I don't know how many times Jesse and I will disagree about a particular topic, but what we do have is mutual respect for one another. And in this case, Maynan and I have a long history of mutual respect. So my point being here tonight, there are times where we will disagree on certain matters, but by and large, we have far, far more in common. And I think every one of us here at this wants to make Missoula a better, stronger community that progresses forward and lifts people up out of poverty, protects the climate as best as we can, and puts roofs overhead. So that is my message to all of my colleagues and to all of Missoula. Let's keep trying to find common ground.
Ms. Cheryl.
Thanks. And first, I want to thank Ms. Jones for that lovely tribute to Larry. His granddaughter is very good friends with both of my daughters, and I can tell you that she has been really hurting this week and is missing him dearly. So I will make sure that they take a look at the city council meeting and hear your comments, Gwen, because those were lovely. So I'm going to I guess, echo some of the thoughts that Ms. Anderson made. You know, our COVID numbers are not good. New restrictions are going to be announced tomorrow at a press conference. I think it's at 1 p.m. We have had major outbreaks in our senior living facilities, over 80 cases, and one of them, our positivity rate of last week was 8.3. Boston closed their public schools when they went over 5%. And our hospital's capacity is starting to see some limitations. There are currently 4 hospitals in the state of Montana that are at capacity. So, you know, this is not only a risk as more COVID patients arrive in our hospitals, but also for anyone that slips on the ice, gets in a car accident, is a victim of domestic violence, or has a heart attack. Capacity means capacity regardless of your emergency. So I think we all need to think about that as a community. What I think we can all agree on is that we want our hospitals functioning and admitting patients. We want our businesses to survive, and we want our children to get educated. So every time we choose to have a group of friends over, go to a dinner party, host a team event, or not wear a mask, we're reducing the chances of these things happening. As many of you know, or anyone that knows me, I'm a very social person, and I miss what my life used to look like. I miss my kitchen being filled with teenagers eating all of our food. I miss my elderly parents, and I miss having a glass of wine with my girlfriends. This just kind of sucks, but the virus does not care if we are over it or not. In fact, it loves our exhaustion because it proliferates in that environment. I'm asking people to not give up fighting for this. I'm asking people to read the science and think about what it means for our community if our cases continue to spike. To remember that just because you may not die from it, you may still be dealing with damage to your health for a long time to come. And we're just beginning to understand this. And that the domino effect of the choices that we are making right now may end someone's life. I realize this is kind of grim. I like to generally stay positive, but I'm not feeling that way right now. So I'm urging people to read a book, to learn to knit, to clean out your closets yet again. I'm pleading with people to be careful, to limit social interactions and size of gatherings, to social distance, to wash your hands, and to please wear a mask. We can make a difference in this thing, and we can save some lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cheryl. Ms. Wasika.
Thanks.
First of all, don't forget to vote. It is, I believe it is questionable on whether you can mail back your ballots yet or still. So I would recommend for you to drop it off. I just did that the other week and it took me less than a minute once I got there. So that's recommended. Second of all, there was a horrible tragedy this weekend on I-90 by Billings. Two young men, two tow truck operators, were struck and killed by a vehicle trying to pass another vehicle while they were recovering another vehicle due to this icy weather. I believe they're 37 years old and 28 years old. Those are two young men that could still be here today, and they're not because somebody was trying to get there faster. So please, everybody, it's winter, it's icy out. Drive slow, be aware of your surroundings, leave early or be late. It's not worth it. This is an absolute tragedy that did not have to happen. And I'm begging everyone to please slow down and be aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vasika. And Mr. Contos.
I'll pass, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we have no committee reports this evening, nor do we have any new business. Are there any additional items to be referred? Seeing none of those, any miscellaneous communications, petitions, reports, and announcements? Seeing none, as always, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your service. We will be adjourned.